Hi and welcome to the best thing you watched this week. Chris couldn't be with me today because obviously he's in the United States of America and I'm in the UK. But for our intro I thought I'd show you something a little different. I recently bought a new MacBook Pro. We spoke to Apple Help Desk and basically they told us this is dead. There's nothing we could do to it because it's from 2012. And so we're going to see what weapons can destroy it. What do you think? Will this do well? Let's have a look. Well, did a little damage. Right, next up is a rake. That didn't do anything. Next weapon of choice? Fork?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, got a little crack there. Oh, this is a sturdy...
It's a pretty sturdy machine.
Stick. Watching?
Mm-hmm. You're gonna break the stick. Yep, broke the stick.
We broke the stick. Saws. Nope. All right. It's hammer time. You watching? Oh my gosh. All right. I think we're gonna try putting it flat. Don't try this at home, guys. I feel like I'm playing Ben-Hur.
I feel like that's actually pretty damn sturdy.
Ramming speed. It's not usable. It's dead. And I'm dead. Welcome to the best thing we watched. Hi and welcome to the best thing you watched this week. Hopefully you've got some interesting things to talk about with us in the comments down below. Leave your thoughts, we love that. But this is another podcast / YouTube video with the best thing that we watched this week. We've got Chris from Movies and Munchies, myself from the Ruby Tuesday. Austin isn't with us unless he's there like with a ghost appearance somewhere. But apparently he's going to be joining us again next week, so he might pop up now and again. Loved having him last week, but today you've got our glorious faces and we have some really interesting things to talk about. Chris, you have a list, and as I've talked a lot already, I'm going to ask you, what's your first thing on the list?
All right, my first thing is Squid Game on Netflix. It just dropped on Friday, and this South Korean thriller almost / horror game series is just absolutely bonkers. You take this collection of people who are down on their luck, and they then participate in a Hunger Games-ish, or like you referenced, Ruben, in your review, and I did too, Battle Royale, just style of just all-out gore and violence, and the games are designed to test people. And the thing I think I loved, well, there are several things that I loved about this show, but one of them was the simplicity of the games that they introduce. You have like red light, green light, or tug of war, or something like that, just very basic child games, and the show takes these simple concepts and then amps up that anxiety just so that you're like can barely breathe at points. And all the while we have this very engaging narrative that is going on, that we are just sucked into each of these characters, and it's a large ensemble cast. Now I think the show does a good job of whittling it down to kind of show us, like, here's a smattering of people that we're going to follow, and then within there we then choose our own, the ones that I'm going to root for them, and I don't really like you, keeping my eye on you, and so you have heroes, villains, anti-heroes, and it's so that was 9 hours ish of binging, but truly once you start, it's really hard to not continue on going, especially because don't know if it affected you the same way, but there's a couple episodes where they're going right at the climax, boom, credits. And like, oh my gosh, next episode right now. I don't even have time to get up and go for a wee because I gotta figure out what's going on right now. When we get to a quieter moment, maybe I'll pause it. But what did you kind of have that same reaction? How did that make you feel, or the whole show really?
Yeah, the first episode took me back because I expected it to be like the rest of the show is. But they really take their time with that first episode, showing you some of the characters and showing us how life is really sucky. You know, the amount of debt that they're in, seemingly most of I guess that's what the story is about, taking people that are very vulnerable that will say yes to this sort of game show, even though they know, they eventually know that it's gonna, be deadly. It's worth a shot to try and get out of the life they're in. And so they take people from those walks of life. That first episode is showing us, or first couple really, with like kind of getting back into, this is what's happened, or when they make the decision, when it's their decision, without going into massive spoilers yet. Yeah, so once I got into, okay, this is what it is, it reached my expectations of, okay, Hunger Games, Battle Royale. Also, I think you mentioned something about like the kids on an island. Was that you?
Oh, Alice in Borderland? Is that the one that you're thinking of?
No. Like an old book where...
Oh, Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies, thank you. And I thought that was a really good comparison because there was that social experiment amongst the games that you had and the people watching, the voyeuristic kind of nastiness of it. There was that, what happens when you leave adults who have no rules, really. They're just left up to their own devices, and you see how, like, you want them to be good, but mostly they're not, and you're just like, oh, okay then. So I thought that was a really interesting take. Alongside, we had a couple of storylines that I liked, but if you're going to do them, you've really got to do them well. And so that took away from the story a little bit. Maybe they're leaving some for a possible second season, I guess.
I hope so.
But I really enjoyed it. I was like you. I think it was episode 4 and 5. I had to watch back to back. There were moments where it felt like they were like mid doing something, and then just like ended there. And you're like, what? Yeah, was it? I think the first episode, even, or the first game, that might have ended on a red light, green light, and you didn't know it was like mid jump or something, and then they went into the next one. I was like, I gotta know now. There's no time for peeing. Yeah, fun.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, for those of you watching, listening, spoiler warning. We have put our time codes for the video below. So if you have not seen this yet, you don't want to have some of the moments spoiled, just go ahead and skip forward in the video and you're good to go. Okay, disclaimer out of the way. So, so many things to tackle here. Okay, so that side story, let's just do that, because that one, I think that was really the one that bothered me the most, because I liked the addition of the detective searching, sneaking on into this game, infiltrating it, going around, doing all of that cloak and dagger to get through parts. And we know...
I thought that was really unique.
Yeah, I thought so too. And he, he's not 100% above board, because even just what he does to get onto the ship, that's a little bit of a...
I know. I was like, are you a detective? You murdered someone.
See, I thought he just knocked him out. And then, and I expected, as we see the body floating in the water and the ship leaving, I expected to see some coughing, and like the guy, and get up and everything else. No, dude's dead. So I like that, and because I think some of that is that allows the show to introduce and to give us information, on the larger story of what's going on and what maybe some of the motivations are. It gets us to see behind the scenes in kind of a more natural way than just doing a cutaway, to showing us behind the scenes. But when we get to that end where it reveals that the front man is the brother of the detective, I had already guessed that.
Oh, really?
I'm glad. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I did. I had paused it earlier in the episode, or not the episode, like earlier in the show, and I told my wife, I bet that's him. Once I knew that he was searching for his a relative, I didn't know exactly. I mean, I remember he goes into the apartment, and it was for his, he was looking for his brother. His brother wasn't there, and so I was like, what? Just I don't know how the connection made it. It was a leap, really, for me, and it turned out to be right. But why? Why is he there? You know what I mean? And I agree with you that I think, okay, so if they hold that information back for maybe a second season to give us some more motivation, especially because of how the show ends with the games resuming. And so now somebody else is the host. So my guess is that the front man has become the host because he knows all of the inner workings and everything else. Or maybe he's going to do both. Who knows? But so maybe they do save some of that story to give us just a more rounded thing for a second season, but it's risky. What happens if they don't do a second season? They've left this chunk of like, well, who are you? Why did you disappear? Why did you all of a sudden end up on the island doing these things? And now you've shot your brother and he fell off the cliff. Could he survive? Yes, because you only shot him in the shoulder. That's still a really long fall to the water below. So
It was interesting.
I don't know
reading some of the comments
okay,
in our reviews. A lot of people guessed the old guy, which I didn't see coming at all. I must have been really naive in this one because I didn't see the brother and I didn't see the old guy. And when the old guy was the bad guy, I was like, no, old dude. I liked you. You were great. I was rooting for you. And now you're just a rich douchebag who was bored. Seriously? Yeah. No, carry on. What were you going to say?
Go ahead. I had guessed that one too, and it was because it was when they're sitting there for the first time. They show the back of the host, and he has the mask on, and he starts to take it off. There was something about his hands. And I paused it again. I told my wife, I was like, that's the old dude. And then it made me think back to the marble game where they had panned away from when they shot him. Now, at that moment, I had thought, you know what? It's just a creative way to not show that they're killing an old dude on screen. Yeah. I mean, they haven't shied away from the violence thus far, but maybe that's a line they don't want to cross.
Just this once.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who knows? But then once I saw his hand, I was like, oh, I bet that's him. Now, again, they'll have to wait till the very end for any kind of confirmation. So, but knowing those, that didn't ruin it for me, No,
I was so surprised. I was like, what? Okay. So here's the thing. Going back to the comments, a lot of people think that the detective, being the type of story it is, they think that he is alive, that he survived, he got shot in the shoulder. And there was something about the comments, people seeing the guy in the reflection of a mirror, so they think he is alive, that he was there. I don't know where they picked that up, but I'm going to have to go back and sift through a few going, oh, maybe he is. So bearing in mind, let's just say that the detective is alive. Then we get to the father, who's the biggest douchebag of all. I'm sorry, I know he's an anti-hero, but he gets to the airport and he's going to go see his daughter. He has all the money, and he decides, no, I'm going to go hunt these douchebags, these bad guys. He could go buy himself a house, be right next to his daughter, give her all the chicken in the world, buy her a steak. But no, he decides not. So anyway, second season, I was just so disappointed in his character. I was like, seriously? Have you learned nothing? Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I see it also as a righteous pursuit. You know what I mean? Like it's a revenge now. I think more so it's a revenge story, that it could be. But yeah, I was disappointed when, but almost not unexpected. Like, I was bummed that he didn't get on the plane because, yes, just like you said, he's got this money. He finally can go see his daughter. He can maybe even, establish this better relationship with her. This is not necessarily based on money, but just now that he has the means to help contribute and to take care of. But it also the challenge that is thrown unintentionally or maybe intentionally by the front man on the phone. You know what I mean? Like they have to know that this is going to trigger him to come back. Because, think back to episode 2, or the end of episode 1, where the cast, the players have voted to stop the game. And so they all leave. And then they choose to come, most of them choose to come back again. And that was
of their own free will.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, it's twisted at the beginning because these people have signed up kind of in the dark. They don't know exactly what they've agreed to take part in. And so all of those people that died at the beginning, it's like, oh, that's tough, because you just walked into this and I'm sorry, you failed at red light, green light. But now, once you all walk away, when you come back, you know that the stakes are absolutely life and death. That there is, if you make a misstep, you don't succeed in the game or finish it or whatever the quest is, you're dead. And so you get to really see. I think that forms a lot of the psyche of these players that we see. These are more of the desperate people overall than maybe the ones at the beginning. Because obviously some people chose, a handful of them chose not to return. But
yeah, so I have my theories on that as well. If you remember when the detective was looking in the office and he finally found information about his brother, you see a list of everybody that won that won. So we see the years of how long they've been holding this competition and all the winners. And I think his brother, because he found his brother, I think his brother had won, so they have the champions. And I think that's why he's, in a roundabout way, that's why he became the host. And I think this second season, about getting him back, our protagonist, is all about getting a new host, which could end up being, imagine how nasty that would be, but there's a nice completion circle there where if he somehow they get him to understand you need to be the host now to control it, because it's dark, but
it is dark. I like it. Oh wow, yeah, no, I so that theory right there, that has me more excited to see a second season. When it ended, I was fine with, I was irritated with his decision to not get on the plane, but the series, I felt, it wrapped up despite some of the holes. Like, okay, I can overlook some of those. I'm just going to enjoy what has been presented because it has given me some closure. But if they can develop, kind of based on that, something like that, I'm down. That's a great theory.
Can I just say, Red and Blue, that game, I never want to play it again. It was so nasty. Like I never expected just them to wipe out half the cast. I thought it was going to take a while longer than that. But first game, second episode, here we go, done. Just everybody, and it was so harsh. They basically weren't moving, but there's like a slight breeze of on their clothing moved, and it was like you're dead.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then hiding behind other people, so you're using them. Everything that they made humans do just made them turn out being nasty for wanting to survive.
Oh yeah, well, and okay, so then let's look at the marble game. When it, right before they announced it, I was like, oh my gosh, are they gonna, like, the pairing of them?
I saw that one coming. I was like, don't choose someone you like. This is gonna be nasty.
Oh, so you saw it farther off.
Oh, I saw that one. It's that whole thing about where assassins get given a dog and they get taught to raise it and love it, and then your final test in like Nikita, I think, is like shoot that dog, and you're like, no, I would fail. Like,
oh, totally,
yeah.
Hands down, absolutely, walk away, or I'd shoot the other people.
Right? Yeah. How many bullets have I got?
Exactly. Yeah. See, I didn't see it coming that far off, especially like as they're choosing teams or anything else. I didn't even think about that part of it. It was only when they got the marbles right before what's explained, and I'm like, oh, but that becomes then treacherous.
Yeah.
Like the guy that Gi-hun, I apologize.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Screwing up his name. He, the guy that he holds up as like the smartest one, the cunning player, you know, the one that he actually fights at the end. So that guy and Ali, oh my gosh, that just the brutality of spirit to be that devious. Now, genius.
Ali was my favorite character until then.
Wasn't he great? I mean, he was great. Was innocent.
Like, what a human.
Yeah. I mean, he was so like almost pure of heart. Like he was very kind, very generous, very giving and thankful and appreciative.
Shouldn't have been there.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And the two girls, I had a feeling of what was going to come. Not only because as they were walking out, you know, and she had said, you know, I'll do whatever it takes to help you succeed. But just as you hear more and more of her story, and once she decided, you know, we're going to play one game, one round, you know, we'll wait till the end. I was like, okay, so you're going to be the one to sacrifice. Doesn't take away, though, from the emotionality of it, you know, that it's just like, ooh, wow.
No, that hit pretty hard, that whole episode, really, because by then you're fully invested in some of those characters. And so then they just start picking them off. You're like, surely they won't, right? But then, I don't know if you were thinking, wait a minute, how many people are going to win this competition? There's only going to be one. This is totally Hunger Games and Battle Royale in that aspect. This is horrible. I don't want to like anybody.
Yeah, who do I don't want to root for people now. Because it's just, there was, I mean, as the show went along, and you get to see more and more of people's hearts.
It starts coming out, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And it actually managed to shock me at the end, before the final, before Squid Game, when the three of them are in the room and the girl is bleeding, and so the Gi-hun goes to knock on the door. And when he turns around and the other dude has slit her throat, it's like, yeah. Now, we know that you're ruthless. So that I should have seen this coming, but I didn't. And it was one of those another gut punch. I'm like, oh my gosh, I liked her. Like, I figured she was going to die, but, oh man,
I was still in denial. I was hoping that, like, this is part of they can't have her die. She's part of the 3, right?
Exactly. You know, and that's a great point, because something that I appreciated about the show is that they, as messed up and as twisted as it is, and the games that they play, there was a level of rules that they held everybody to. There was this, you know, that everybody has the equal chance. Okay, cool. So I think that's a great premise to put things on, because then if somebody steps out of line to tweak that, there are consequences for that. Well, when the bridge explodes and they get hurt, she gets more hurt. So that is exactly, that puts her at a disadvantage. And I felt that I understand why they do it, but really, if you're going to keep everything equal, you have, after she has succeeded, you have caused a fatal wound. So you need to, as the game players or the game makers, you need to fix this. You need to get her up so that she now has the equal chance to participate going forward. Yeah. And but again, we can't have that, because we have to only have 2 going into the final game.
But you could see it, because they showed us at the beginning of episode 1 these 2 kids playing Squid Game. And then we have that completion in the rain with these 2 kids playing Squid Game, which is great. I didn't see him stopping. I thought enough I mean, I guess it's right. He'd finally had enough, but he was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. He stabbed at the stand. I was like, do you really forgive him? Your friend has gone really dark. He's murdered people, killed people. Like, you would be fully within your right just to end it there and walk away with the money, and that would be it. But no, he's like trying to save his friend, and then his friend, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, what was the point?
I think, yeah. Well, you know, I think it gives him a redemption arc, though, too. You know, it shows as...
Both of them, actually.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. Because as much as they have gone through, and because both of them have been treacherous to their opponents. I mean, the marble game... That
was the old dude testing him. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And that another heartbreaking moment there. But, you know, so both of them have not been blameless in this. They have not been like, oh, no, I'm just, you know, I mean, other people died around me, but I didn't contribute to that. No. You both have actively contributed to this to save your own self. And so now when we get to this final thing, when he has that opportunity to end it, to finish him, he chooses, no, you know what, I'm not going to. Even to not finish the game itself, let alone stab the dude, you know? And I thought that's at least a good character arc and a good character redemption moment there, that he can go, okay, I get to retain a small piece of who I am, even though we know that this is all going to jack him up, you know, for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I don't know where I sit with one in a second. I'd like a completion of the stories if it's good, not for the sake of it, because people love this and it's gotten traction. Because it, you know, sometimes a series will get greenlit for another because it's done well, and then the writers go, crap, we only meant for the one, what do we do now? And then they've got to rush something. I don't want that. Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, I would much prefer them to, if they only had one season planned and they can't come up with something else, don't come up with something else.
Just leave it
as it is, and leave it as strong like it was, even with some of the flaws.
Yeah.
So I think we've exhausted. Maybe
I think we have. Yeah.
This. Okay. What's on your list?
I'm going to talk a bit about Dune. No spoilers.
Okay.
I will do a full review closer to, because it's a few weeks away still, and you haven't seen it, so I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
Thank you.
I had a press screening, which I was lucky enough to go to in London on the biggest IMAX screen in the UK, and it's definitely the loudest cinema experience I've had. It's the loudest and the longest. It's a long film. And it's not Return of the King long, but it felt long. So take that from what you will. I think it's going to...
Okay.
I think it's going to have mixed responses. I don't think it's going to be the 5 stars that everybody has been... like, that has seen it already. You know, there's been these special screenings, and it's all coming out like, this is God's gift to cinema sort of film. And everybody's going... I think they're scared of saying anything negative as well, because it's Denis, and he is a fantastic director, and he has delivered us some exquisite films. He does do, and especially in this one, the pregnant pause. And this is what my friend and I, we were talking about afterwards. It's the looking off into the distance and doing that and holding that for a few seconds while your background is there. And you can do that maybe once or twice, but if it's a thing that you rely on to start telling your story, which he does because he's a very visual storyteller, so you take very loud score because it's Hans, and you know, you got the bombs and the wars and the spaceship sounds was so loud my chair was vibrating. Right, so it was just like, and I'm like, whoa. You know, if I had my hair undone, it'd probably be like, and so visually, it's a ride, but there's a lot of pregnant pauses. There's a lot of stillness. There's a lot of story building. Really, this feels like the intro into the story that he wants to tell. There's a little bit of cheating going on as well. So like Zendaya on the poster, she's not in it for that long. And this is a 3-hour film. Yeah, maybe 20 minutes, maybe.
Really?
It's really the next film is what is going to be the next story. If they get to make it, because they haven't even decided and they haven't even started filming it. There's, I think, might be a part 2 and 3. And so we have an interesting storyline here because it's such a big book. And that's the reason why so many directors haven't or couldn't make it. So now we have the technology, we have the director with the vision, and I mean, the sets are incredible. Like, your jaw will drop. But there are moments that my jaw goes, I go from, whoa, to this is pretentious, to dang, that's amazing, to what am I watching, to, and I'm a huge fan of Dune. I've read the books, I've seen the original film, I've watched the miniseries, so, like, and Denis Villeneuve, no, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his surname. Arrival is one of my all-time favorite films. I think it's incredible. I like the pregnant stares and the score because it just really works. In this one, because it's an established story, you have some things that he's trying to do, and it's an origin story that I felt like you didn't need to tell that much of. So it also expects you to know stuff. So, like, because there's so much origin and lore, there's this languages and setup. So although they tell you basic stuff about the houses that are around and the people and the wars, it also feels like you could be missing stuff. Like, if you don't know anything about the world, you could be like, what does that mean? Why are they doing that? I get the nature of the suit and they're kind of telling me, but how does that work? It does feel like you're left with a lot of questions. So on one end, it's possibly the best visual ride you're going to have this year. Probably, like, I could quite easily say this is going to win Oscars. But it also is a cake eater's film. And what that is middle-class people who love art house films is like probably 20% of your audience. But the 80% is the people who love Marvel and just want to ride and don't really need to think about something too much. If there's a story that has some interesting take on it, that is visually stunning and helps you escape life for 2 to 3 hours, great. That's what most people are going, a popcorn experience. Sometimes you want something a little bit more chewy, sometimes you want art house. It just depends on the mood you're in. But I think for the majority, after a hard week, people like Marvel, let's go and do that, or escapism. And so half of this film I felt like, yeah, this is escapism. The other half I was like, that's so beautiful to watch, but why have 10 seconds of that person staring into space? So it's a very interesting mix. I think you might love it, Chris, because I know you liked what's the dragon one with Merlin? The Dragon Knight? The Green Knight.
Oh, the Green Knight.
The Green Knight. Yeah. So I managed to catch a screening of that. I didn't do a review, and I didn't love it. And I expected to love it. But that's because it's very slow and it's drawn out.
It really is.
Stunning to look at. Like, incredible. I would say it feels the same.
Okay.
But at the same time, I don't think I've seen a bigger film. Like, in scope, I can't think of one. It's biblical. So I think Ben-Hur meets Star Wars, but with like an outrageous cast as well. Just like every single person you look at, like, I know that person from that. They were this too. It's that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Surprisingly, Josh Brolin stole the film for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time he was on screen, I was like, dude, you rock. Anyway, so this leads us to the discussion we wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Scorsese, Christopher Nolan, and now Denis, they've all had a go at Marvel, saying Marvel are the copy and paste. They don't do anything new or different. And I've talked a lot now, so I'm going to let you take the stage on this one.
Well, okay. So my first impression when I saw his tweet this week, Denis' tweet, and gosh, I should have pulled it up to be able to see what it actually said. And let me do that so I can quote it, because I think that was it. It was actually the thing I saw, which is also what you sent me, was Neil Blomkamp's response to
which is funny
something
in
itself. Exactly. But I'm not going to read his because it was 90% just expletive. But Denis was quoted by Fandom to say there are too many Marvel movies that are nothing more than a cut and paste of others. Now, okay, so initial reaction on that was, that's kind of a smug statement coming from somebody who's readapting a book that's already been adapted for film. So that, excuse me, that was my initial reaction. I honestly, I don't get some of the pretension of just some of the filmmakers. Now, you know, you have your own vision, you have your own way of doing things, and you have like rabid fans that follow you. And that goes for just about every director. You know, that they have this core of fans, and then it reaches out from there, that, you know, you attract more and more people to lesser degrees as that sphere expands. But why do you need to trash somebody else's vision of of their plan just because it may not fit with the exact thing that you do? Because I would argue that some of the most heart-wrenching, impactful, just visually stunning, engaging movies have been Marvel movies. I mean, not all of them. Not all of them are outstanding, and not all of them just as a complete whole. Like if you take one movie and you're like, well, that one, even as I love that as entertainment and even some of the filmmaking, but I could pick apart, you know, if I were to get in really fine tune, you know, fine details and stuff, I'd be like, okay, well, that's not as good, or that was wanting here and stuff. But you can still take portions of it and then take the piece as a whole, because I can also do that with other things, even like The Green Knight. You know, I can go in and I could say, well, okay, him walking or riding his horse for 3 minutes with nothing happening, that's visually brave to do in a film where, you know, there's no dialogue, stuff like that. But I think you also run the risk of losing your audience there. You know, so the point is, we can nitpick about all kinds of stuff, but I don't understand why a director, a filmmaker even, would choose to bash on just something that the audience feels is fun. Now, especially, this popped into my head just now. If we take Dune specifically, this is a sci-fi epic. So it's fiction. It's based on somebody's imagination. And so you've had this grand vision of it, and you're doing that, and that's outstanding. Whether it is A+ spectacular, or it flounders somewhere, or it's just utter poo, whatever, you've taken your vision and you've gone after it and you've attacked it. Marvel are like sci-fi movies, you know, that the same thing. They've taken a premise, they've taken some source material, which were comic books, and they've fleshed them out in their own vision. And they've made something that appeals, you know, maybe more to the masses. But I think, hey, you know what? If you look at Dune, the expectation and the anticipation for Dune is like right at the top. I mean, you have Denis fanboys, you have sci-fi fanboys, you have, I mean, this is it. There are so many different types of people, I think, that are anticipating this, that it kind of disgusts me. Like I do at the initial outset, I agreed with Neil Blomkamp's tweet. Like, dude, what? Why are you trashing this? Because it's just entertainment also. At the end of the day, and let's really be clear here. This is not a documentary that is bettering the world because you're bringing new information to light that is changing somebody's life. You are providing escape, like you said, for a few hours to let us be transported into some other realm that invites our imagination. We are being told a story, and we are being enveloped by that world and the characters, and it allows us to forget about our own life and reality for that set period of time. That's it. You're a filmmaker, okay? And I'm not knocking him because, hey, I sit behind a camera, and I talk about movies. I'm not saving the world either. I am not, I'm not operating on people. I'm not coming up with cures for diseases. None of these things, I'm not farming for, sustainable stuff. I don't want anybody to hear that, oh, well, Chris is up on his high horse and he feels that he's, better or something. No, that's not it at all. I'm a YouTube idiot. That's what I am. So, but I don't think, let's not forget what these people are and what they do. That they create they create entertainment. They've taken a story, whether it's original or not, somebody else's, they've adapted it, and they've created their vision for it. So let everybody just go for that and keep your pretension to yourself. Be like, you know what, I'm going to trash on these. Well, guess what? These also make a crap ton of money, and they satisfy a really large amount of people's interest and their escapism. So now you're just pooing on their escapism, and why would you do that? Because these are also some of your potential fans.
A friend of mine who's in radio says he thinks it could be a PR stunt. And the reason why he's saying that is because he heard from the grapevine that the Scorsese tweet that tweeted out Marvel's kind of rubbish was a PR stunt, and look at the response that had, because now everybody's talking about Scorsese and he had films made, and so he's now talking about them. I question that logic, because Denis was probably in my top 3 directors, and I'm not saying that's changed. But my thinking of him as a person, of somebody that would write that about somebody else's creative work, that irks me. So that definitely drops a level. And there must be others. Now, if you think about how passionate Star Wars fans are, or Marvel fans are, Disney fans are, and you kind of poo on what they love. And I mean, I wear my heart to my sleeve when it comes to Marvel. They're not the greatest films, but if you think about who else has taken 10 years and like 22 films and crafted an amazing story that kind of makes sense, it's incredible. It's an incredible piece of cinema if you take it as a whole. Never mind just like some of the storylines or some of the even avant-garde the creative processes that some of the films have had, from Doctor Strange to Marvel, like different time periods, costume design, huge actors, like the biggest AAA star actors wanting to be in the films, it's bonkers. And to poo on that, I don't know when that's a smart idea. Like if you're listening to your PR agent, if it is a PR stunt, I think that's a really dumb idea, because you could take a large majority of people that were on your side, really eager. And there's this weird balancing act with marketing as well. Sometimes they spend as much on marketing for the film or more than the film cost, right? To try and get it out there, because you need to get it in people's eyeballs, butts on seats. That's what it's down at the end of the day. The shareholders need to get their money back from what they've invested. And if you take that perception of your film in one tweet and people just go, I was going to see it, but there's another film that I was thinking of see. I only have this amount of money. Maybe I'll just wait till it comes on HBO Max and just watch it like that. Or down the line, I might see it when it's streaming. I'll give it a couple of years. You might not even get your second film. If you drop perception and suddenly it changes, you have a few people talking on podcasts and videos that were upset and then suddenly you have your sharing that goes out to the masses around the world. And people are like, actually, yeah, that's nonsense. You are a director of film. You should be going, I love Marvel. Or is it that he actually hasn't seen them because he's saying something that seems weird? Like, I don't think what he's saying is actually accurate. There might be a couple that have a similar premise, a similar platform. But if you go and study each of those films, I guarantee you'll find really creative moments, camera uses, some great dialogue, incredible acting in moments. I think about the Hulk and his whole storyline. Like, sometimes the comedy is as hard to do as action, and you think the pacing and timing of that, like, come on, man, that I was just like, what? That is bonkers. That's a really weird thing for you to say. But now it's being Scorsese. If you think about the directors that have said it as well, Scorsese, Nolan, and now Denis, you do wonder, like, you guys do amazing visual stories, but it can come across as pretentious. You don't want to be known as, oh, those are those those are the directors that said stuff about Marvel, and they're like, oh, look at my film, it's the greatest thing. I can pick your films apart. It's quite easy. Every single film, no film is perfect, bar Back to the Future. There's no or Never Ending Story. Atreyu.
It's so funny that we both said that. That's totally unplanned.
Oh wow. My next bit would be Artax, you're sinking. But yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
Rant over. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that was. Yeah. All right.
It leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see. I mean, it's interesting. One last thought on just the publicity angle. I mean, there is that saying. There's no such thing as bad publicity, because it gets you it gets your name out there in front.
I mean,
whether
we're talking about it. Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And so I think it really depends on how it weathers the storm and where that conversation goes. I'm still excited to see the movie.
I think you're going to love it. Like, I still want to see it again. So, like, the more I think about it, the more I go, yeah, that was incredible. That bit, like there are moments in films you're like, damn, I want to see that at the cinema again. Like, that was incredible. Blew my mind.
Nice.
When you're watching the film, try not to think of it as Star Wars, though, because it could quite easily be Star Wars. Like a really art house version of Star Wars. Have you seen the original Dune film?
I have not seen the entirety of it. I think I've seen a portion of it, but that was years and years and years ago.
But there are moments when in my head I was just like, "You're just doing the Force now. What? Come on." Because they're that one race that use their voices to control people. That's like in the original in the book, and so I was like, just need lightsabers now.
Well, so I'll take your suggestion. Should I, or your recommendation, should I sit down and watch the original for completion before
just go in? Because if it's fresh in your mind, you'll be expecting further in the story. You'll be comparing
I'll be comparing it too much.
I wouldn't. I purposely left it.
Yeah.
And even then, I still had. What about this bit? Yeah. What about that bit? But you got to remember, it's based on the book and not the movies. Correct.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he's not making a remake. Yeah.
It is spectacular,
he's doing a new
and
adaptation.
I think people that love scores and soundtracks afterwards are going to be like, I need to own this. Like, it's incredible. You said it was Hans Zimmer, right? 3 score albums for this one. So
it's a long movie. So.
Yeah. 3 hours worth of score. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, we talked enough about Dune and stuff.
Right on. Let's see. I saw a movie that only is in, I think it's only in limited release right now. It came out at TIFF earlier in the week, maybe, or last week, something like that. But it's The Eyes of Tammy Faye that stars Jessica Chastain and Andrew Garfield.
Great cast.
And
I've never even heard of it.
You're totally. Are you familiar with Tammy Faye and Jim Baker? Do you know who they are? Okay. Well, Tammy Faye was, Jim Baker was, he's still alive, she's not. But they were televangelists in 70s and 80s, and crazy popular. They became very wealthy.
How did I not hear of them? Okay.
And
from the Bible Belt sort of area.
Yeah. It was just when TV evangelists were hitting it. You had
Huge.
The 700 Club, which actually was
still going now, isn't it?
Jim Baker's thing. I think it is. Yeah. And you had some other things that were going on that were just beginning to break out, and their story is that it's really Tammy Faye's story. Now, Tammy Faye, if you ever look up like images of her or anything else, as time went on, she became very iconic in her appearance because of her makeup that she wore. She had big, vibrant eyeshadow, these really thick, mascara-laden eyelashes, just some very shiny or bright, bold lipstick sometimes. I mean, her eyes really, that was the thing, that it was just like,
oh, wow.
They were kind of,
I can see.
They're not like, dusty eyes or whatever. Yes, or smoky eyes. Anyway, she had a very iconic look, and so it was very recognizable. Now, she became in real life more of a punchline than anything. That the world just looked at her, and they saw their appearance, and then she became the butt of a joke. This movie, Jessica Chastain disappeared into the role.
Really?
Oh my goodness. Oh, like if she is not nominated for the best actress in every awards show that comes out for this role, then she is massively robbed. Now, I don't know if she's going to win, because we don't know who else is going to be there and what else she'd be up against, but she absolutely disappeared into her character. She became just, even if you're not familiar with who Tammy Faye was, which I'm not massively by any means, she embodied just this character, and she took a character, like I said, that was a punchline, and she made her very sympathetic, and she made her, and again, that goes back to the writing as well, but you can have all the great writing you want, and if an actor can't pull it off and make us feel empathy and compassion for that character, then it's just not going to work. She totally did, and it works. You have Andrew Garfield as her husband, as Jim Baker, and he was also playing, just a perfect role too. He didn't disappear fully like she did for me, but together they worked really well. There is dysfunction in there is hurt, there is manipulation, and Tammy Faye is not blameless as it goes through. Now, I think probably the biggest complaint that people may have with this is that the movie itself is not really an expose.
Okay.
They both, the Bakers were, they had their network taken away from them. Jim went to jail. Tammy Faye, had, I don't know if she had restitution or something to pay. They were mismanaging funds left and right.
Most evangelists do, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially when it gets into just this crazy amount of money, and it just was rolling in and stuff. Yeah, and so it shows some of that. It doesn't. It just doesn't dive into detail. And I think maybe if people go in believing or expecting a searing look at who Tammy Faye was, that's not what you're getting in this.
Right.
We're getting really a human story, and that she is the center of. And while they don't whitewash her to say, "Oh, well, nothing. She didn't ever do anything bad," they don't go into every nook and cranny of any of their lives, or then even the other televangelists or evangelists that are shown in the movie. They don't, who later on we find out maybe have had sketchy goings on also. They don't go into any of that. So it really is more of just showing us who this person is, and showing us that, well, you may have grown up or saw this person, but you didn't know about this side necessarily. And so if you only had this impression that you saw visually and as that butt of the joke, then we would like to present something new to you for your consideration. And it worked really well. I was really surprised, truly, at this, because it wasn't one that I was like, yes, I'm so excited to go see. I just can't wait. Even though I really, really like Jessica Chastain, I really like Andrew Garfield's stuff. Yeah, she really is. And she, oh gosh, okay. Anyway, so if you get a chance to see it, it is a good movie to see. It feels a little long. I think it's a little over 2 hours. But it would be hard to figure out, okay, where do you cut some of this? I mean, you could probably trim seconds here and here that add up over the course of it, to make it a little shorter. But I was thinking, like, were there scenes that I would just remove because maybe they weren't doing something? But I think every time that I would go to, like, well, what if I took this out? It worked to build and reinforce the character that she's crafting, so that it really... This is showing a different facet, or this is showing at this moment her heartbreak and her breakdown internally and her struggle that she's having dealing with everything that's going around, which then shapes some of these other decisions. And so if you cut this out, these decisions don't make sense. And so I'm glad I didn't have to edit this film because but yeah, so anyway, Eyes of Tammy Faye, if you get a chance to see it, I'd be curious what you think of it, especially because you would be going in completely blind of who she is, and having no frame of reference for her.
But it'll be interesting having that history, like I do with my parents being, my dad being a pastor. Like I have all that. I know there's been evangelists at times when my dad would just watch and like, what kind of pastor has a runway and a jet? Like that money should all be going to the people and the poor and actually doing what Christians are supposed to do. And he just gets angry and switches it off. And he's like, no, that makes sense. So yeah, I think it sounds really interesting. That's a TIFF, is it?
It was, yeah. It was at TIFF. It's in the U.S. It's in limited release right now in theaters, or maybe it. Yeah, and I think it's going wide very soon if it hasn't already.
Okay. Be interesting to see who picks it up here in the UK. Okay, so as we're running long, we've been gabbering on for 52 minutes. I'll choose one more thing from my list to talk about, which I think we can both talk about. So if I do this.
Oh, wait a minute. I had something in front of you on the screen.
If I do this, what does that remind you of?
I don't know. When I see that, I think airplane.
I'm trying to do Nicolas Cage. Let's ride, because it's one of his famous moments from not Fast and Furious. What was it? His car movie,
Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yes, that's the one. He's like, let's ride. The latest Nicolas Cage experience. Let's call it an experience.
Yes.
So you've seen this, right?
I did. Prisoners of the Ghostland. Yeah, I saw it at Sundance earlier in the year. Yeah, did you just see it?
I just saw it. It just came out for streaming in the UK at least. And I loved this and I hated it. I feel like that a lot when I'm watching Nicolas Cage films of late. Like recently, there's been a whole cornucopia. He did a Lovecraftian film recently, The Color of Blind.
Oh, Color Out of Space?
Color Out of Space, yeah. I loved that and I hated it. I was just like, what is happening? Please hurry up. And then, oh my gosh, this is happening? Cool. What is that thing? And then, I'm bored now. And then, oh my gosh. That's pretty much how I feel like this. To explain to those who haven't seen it, Nicolas Cage wears a suit that can explode and he has to rescue a girl. I guess that's about the plot, in a post-apocalyptic futuristic ninja town, sort of, with the most outlandish costume sets designs that you're likely to see. If you've seen a Nicolas Cage film that is way out there, like Willy's Wonderland, and you give them that director this script and give them LSD, that's probably what this film is.
Yeah, so it had this time out of space feel to it, because you have they have this like samurai town type of thing where the sheriff, mayor, whatever he is. I mean, everybody dresses like it was in the 50s, maybe.
Yeah.
Yet it's not. I mean, there's modern technology. It's just
mobile phones. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very discombobulating there. His suit, while different in concept, really reminded me of Escape from New York. The premise, because Snake Plissken has that thing put in the back of his head, which then also reminds me of Suicide Squad. But I don't want to get down on too many tangents
rabbit
there.
Hole.
Yeah, exactly. But so he's sent in to rescue somebody with a time limit and dire consequences if he gets out. Now, this, for me, it's interesting that we're now seeing Prisoners of the Ghostland after we've seen Pig. Pig has come out.
Yeah.
And Pig is a brilliant film. And I absolutely loved it. Yeah. This one, though, I agree with you. I loved it and I hated it. And it wasn't even like Nicolas Cage. There were moments, I think, that he went kind of that full
Nicolas Cage.
Crazy
Never
Nick
go
Cage
full
thing.
Nick Cage.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But mostly not, and I'm not sure how I feel yet overall on the entire movie. I have to read through a lot of my notes that I had taken when I watched it at Sundance. But, the set design was unique-ish. Some of it, I think, really worked. Some of it did feel, again, like it's just, we're in this semi-post-apocalyptic, near future thing. But in the near future, we've gotten rid of some of our modern conveniences and decided to go back to older cars or whatever. It's just,
if you pull, don't even think about trying to pull it apart. It doesn't work at all. The storyline doesn't make sense either. When he's seeing visions of somebody and a thing that happens on a bus, and then it didn't really happen, but then it did happen because they can never escape that place because of the thing that doesn't really exist. I'm like, and they're holding time still, but they can't let time go because it's going to explode. I mean, seriously. you can't analyze it because you'll just be like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. However, there were a couple of action sequences that were actually pretty good in the samurai town. There were two, one at the beginning, one at the end. And Nick Cage himself, there was some choreography there that I was like, this is actually pretty good. What am I watching? It's gone from really cheesy, generic, weird FUBAR film like in the 80s that we used to get to decent choreographed action sequences. Maybe they weren't even decent. Maybe I was just surprised that like, oh, this is something good in this movie, but it looked like people they had great samurais, like hordes of guys with their swords and flying about, and there were like movements and attacks and like great executions. There was one with like somebody had a lamp on their head and the other samurai like slit his throat, and that went they just had fun with the blood packs. But then they were also like talking about blood packs, someone being shot 3 times, but so there was a delay, and I don't know if you know like how fast bullets fly, but like
quick.
There was this gunshot, it was like bang, it was bang, and then it was splat, bang, splat, bang, splat, but it would be, you could just totally see it. It was just like, there's too much of a delay there. Like it just needs to be bang, splat, or just almost immediate. They were like 3 meters away. Why is there a delay? Yeah, there was so much of that. The white Texan dude, mayor guy.
Yes.
Like there was literal over the top acting, but on purpose. It felt very theater.
I agree. Yeah, they were playing like caricatures of other people. It was weird. Yeah. What about, I looked at my notes, Ratman.
Ratman's great, but I don't know what he is. Like, why is he Ratman?
Junkyard chic. Exactly.
How does he know how to build everything out of anything? How can he make all cars run in like the nick of time suddenly, and then strip them, and they happen to have oil and petrol and to keep things running? And I often didn't understand what he was saying because he was speaking in such a high voice. It's like, what are you? Are you the guy from Police Academy? Like, what? Yeah. This movie, I think, overall was just uneven for me. You know, there are these great over the top things, and then there are other parts where I was just like, I don't know, I'm not really digging this right now. And then, oh, hey, look, that was fun. No, exactly that.
Yeah.
We actually watched in 2 parts because we got to a point where like, enough. So, and then we came back and finished it. It took us watching a few episodes of Midnight Mass to get the taste out of her. So, do you want to talk about that briefly? Like,
okay, let's
a taste
it, because the embargo is not lifted, so we're not going to do any kind of review on this. But yes,
no review,
just a little taste.
Just if you were tweeting out, what would you say?
Bonkers. A religious horror that enthralls me, and yet I'm still not sure where it's going. I have a caveat. I have 1 episode left. So,
okay.
How about you?
I have 3 episodes. I have 3 episodes left. visually scary, even at times when it doesn't seem like it should be scary. There's a presence. When it gets to the thing that the thing is about, I was a little bit disappointed.
Is that because you saw it coming?
But like, yeah, I don't know. I expected, because it's so bearing down, and then when they show you what it is, I'm like, huh, okay. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to be different, because I'm still 3 episodes. I still have 3 episodes there.
It does get more bonkers.
Okay.
It does get more insane. Right. So I'll tell you that. I still don't know, though, the end game.
Right.
Like, and that I think is where my hesitation is for this, is that I just don't know at the spot where I'm viewing, which I'm almost done, is, you know, like I don't know the why yet.
Let's hope that they wrap it up in the night. It could be his best work, because it is incredible.
It really is. It is, and like I said, religious horror, the amount of religious imagery, and more so imagery from words that comes into play in this is, you know, so yeah, it'll be interesting for both of us, actually, just from our own backgrounds, you know, to talk about this. But then also, like, to see how audiences feel about that, especially if they have a religious background. You know, that
I could totally see people being upset.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's engaging. It's okay. Before I think,
so let's talk about Mike Flanagan, because
yes,
I've said before, like, I don't like horror, but Mike Flanagan is my favorite director. So that
really
pivots that, like. It used to be Ridley Scott, and then he's done some stuff that I just wasn't massive about. Neil Blomkamp is like my top sci-fi director. I love his work. I love everything he does, especially his YouTube stuff of late. Made amazing. But Mike Flanagan, I think the only film that I've not been able to watch because it was too creepy for me was the Ouija board, or the Ouija board one.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Gerald's Game, like... Man, he filmed that in 16 weeks on a very small budget, and he went to Stephen King and said, I've been carrying around your short story in my bag for like 25 years. I said, I need to make this. And Stephen King went, okay, let me see your other work. And he went, all right. And so they filmed it in 16 weeks, and you have just an incredibly tense film that I was just blown away by. I think it was the story. It's like, how have you taken this short story and created that? And ever since then, I've been just watching his what he's done with, you know, with Netflix, the TV series, the House on the
Haunting of Hill House,
Haunting of Hill House, and then Bly Manor, which wasn't as scary but as incredible.
Yes.
And then my favorite. I know people are going to hate me for this, but I prefer the sequel. I don't like The Shining. Like, I'm not a huge fan of The Shining film.
Oh, you like Dr. Sleep better?
I do. I like, especially the director's cut, and I prefer Stephen King's book. Of The Shining to the film. I wasn't a huge fan.
To Kubrick's
Kubrick's tale of it. I mean, I don't mind it, and there's sequences that are you know, just terrifying.
Wrong.
Yeah, just like no. But at the same time, I just thought Dr. Sleep was incredible. Like, I was like, this dude, he can tell a story. He can get you there, man. So I'm very excited. What do you think about Mr. Mike?
Okay, so I haven't seen all of his work, and I think I saw The Haunting of Hill House before I saw Gerald's Game.
Okay, interesting.
And I don't know why I didn't see Gerald's Game. Really, when it had come out, I just didn't. And so I really, I think I only saw it within the last year and a half or 2 years. Time, because of 2020, has been kind of blurry a little bit. So that might be, I may have seen it in 2019. I don't really know. But I was blown away by that. The tautness and the suspense that was built up, and I loved just the setting that he creates in that, you know, and then, I mean, truly, The Haunting of Hill House blew me away. And I loved his use of subtle horror, you know, that you have these things in the background that is truly that blink and you miss it. And it, nothing that
is scarier than jump scares.
Oh, absolutely. There were multiple times where we're watching and I'm like, and nobody else reacted. I'm like, did you not see that? And they're like, what? I missed it. As I would rewound it and they're like, oh, that's not right. And so these types of things. And then, Bly Manor, different story. I think some people, it didn't resonate with people as much because I think they were expecting a sequel to The Haunting of Hill House. And they're not. They're totally different stories, totally different approach, different, I didn't think that it was as scary either or as terrifying or frightening. It was still wonderfully done, though.
Yeah.
Like I was engaged in it and just loved it. And I, too, I really enjoyed Dr. Sleep. I had read the book.
Okay.
And which... I'm trying to remember how closely. It's been a while since I've read the book and seen the movie, so I don't remember. I know there were some differences in there, as it has to be, just for time and everything. But I thought it was a fairly faithful adaptation of it. I enjoyed the movie a lot, and so I think his ability to craft some of these horrors that aren't your slasher type thing, that are more of the psychological. They bring that psychological element into it. And then sometimes they also interweave in the supernatural, and just the whole thing creates a very atmospheric horror for us. And I think that's, and that's also what is created in Midnight Mass, is that we have just this atmosphere that is being crafted around this story, and we're drawn into it, and then as reveals come, whether you see them or not, coming beforehand, it doesn't take away from that disturbingness and that, that's not
He's the
right.
type of director that I will, when I'm watching something of his, I will push my chair back and just breathe a sigh of relief, because I know that I'm in for something good. Like the first few minutes of Midnight Mass, I was just like, yeah, this is going to be good. Just on the setting and the way it's filmed, I was like, oh, okay, I'm in. I'm sold. I'm there. Yeah, very much looking forward to talking about Midnight Mass on this and our reviews and spoilers. Oh, is it next week? Next week, yeah. This coming Friday.
It's out. I don't have a calendar.
I think the embargo
open.
might be out tomorrow, actually. Oh, Monday.
It's Monday. Yeah. So it is. This one I think is going to be on a lot of people's anticipated list. I'm not sure though how much marketing yet has come out for it. I haven't seen very many, if any, trailers. Maybe one.
I hope nobody does spoilers.
Ruins it before.
Because I think it can totally be ruined. Like one of my friends saying that he's dead when he came out of Signs.
It's so wrong. Yeah, I was Die Hard 2. I was told who the traitor was before I even got to see it. I'm like, dang it, you suck.
Seriously?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, so which is why I hate spoilers. So unless we give massive warnings, I really hope that, and I think I'm staying away from anybody's anything until I finish that last episode, and then I'm able to craft my own review there. But
yeah, absolutely.
Outstanding.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think that's all for the video portion of this. We invite you to check out the exclusive audio segment that we tack on at the end. You can head over to Spotify and search for us, or it's also in, we'll put it in the description of the video there as well. But I'm Chris with Movies and Munchies. Ruben with the Ruby Tuesday. We really do hope that you enjoy the best thing we watched this week. Mm-hmm. And as always, we want to hear what you watched this week. We want to know what was the best thing that you watched, because truly, we both have some lists going of like, ooh, hey, I haven't seen that, and so we may not get to a review of it, but at least we get the opportunity to check it out. So your recommendations are very valuable to us. And just let us know what you thought of some of the things that we talked about today. Maybe you agree, but disagree, whatever it is, but let's continue that conversation down in the comments. Thanks so much. As always, like, share, subscribe, tune into the podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.